Hi everybody, my name is Jennie Pakula. I'm Manager of Innovation and Consumer Engagement at the Victorian Legal Services Board. Today it's World Consumer Day, and so I'm going to be interviewing Catherine Wolthuizen. Catherine, tell us about yourself and your role with the board.
Sure, Jenny. Well, I'm one of the lay members of the board, so they're representing the interests of consumers of legal services or bringing that perspective onto the board. And I'm also chair of the board's consumer panel, which is a collection of other people with strong consumer background and experience who are also bringing their perspective to support the board in how it identifies and incorporates the consumer interests into what it does.
So Catherine, today's World Consumer Rights Day. What's that about?
Look, it's an opportunity for the global consumer movement to come together and highlight issues of mutual concern and interest that affect consumers around the world. And it really marks the day in 1962 when JFK first articulated consumer rights and the consumer principles and brought that focus. So it's been marked since 1983, and very happy to be talking to you about it today.
So, Catherine, sometimes a lawyer will say to me that law is not a consumer service, it's a professional service. Are those two concepts opposed to each other?
I don't think so. I think they can live quite happily together. And in fact, of course, the uniform law incorporates a lot of the consumer protection based on the consumer principles. And the consumer principles are very well established. They've been around for nearly 60 years. They include information, choice, access, quality, safety, fairness, representation, and redress. And I think when, professional practitioners look at what they want to deliver for their clients, they would see a lot of that as what they would aspire to, that consumers should have choice based on appropriate recommendations, that they understand what they're paying for and what they're getting. Should be protected by quality and safety standards. And a lot of that is obviously very consistent with the standards and rules that apply to professional conduct and ethics.
Catherine, I'm going to ask you to bust a few myths now. So here's one. Being consumer-centred means that you have to follow all the client's wishes, even if what they want is unethical or illegal.
Look, I think in reality, when we look at what consumers expect, going back to, that they understand what they're getting what they pay for, that they understand the nature of the service, that they understand that the service that they're getting is of a particular quality. None of that would lead professional practitioners to be acting in an unethical or inappropriate way. It's really just about taking the time to better understand what clients want, and making the effort to ensure that what you're providing them as far as possible and is reasonably aligned to that.
Yeah, good, thanks. Here's another myth. Myth number 2, being consumer-centred will mean that there are even more rules for me to follow. Compliance is going to be even harder.
Well, the reality is that just like any other product or service, there are minimum quality and safety standards that attach to legal services. So it's just really more about a different way of thinking about the nature of the service that professionals are providing. And in legal services, it means that they're ethical, appropriate, and in accordance with the law. And from a consumer service perspective, of course, it's about making sure that legal services are understandable and that the client perceives them as being good value.
Thank you. And finally, myth number 3, consumer-centred legal services would result in even more complaints.
Well, the reality is that at the moment, so many of the complaints that the VLSB receives relate to poor customer service, that consumers are complaining about poor information, poor quality service, poor communication and delays, and that is translating to perceptions of poor value and eroding trust in the profession. So in reality, shifting that focus to providing better consumer service, better understanding of what consumers of legal services want, and aligning services and innovating in that direction could actually see complaints reduced by about 80%.
Thanks. Now, what are we going to do about this? What's the next step in this journey of putting the consumer at the centre?
Well, the consumer panel is currently working on some guidance, both for the regulator and for the sector, on how the consumer principles apply to legal services and to really give the sector a good steer on how to better understand what clients want, particularly in a customer service frame, and to be able to deliver that to them in a way that hopefully will see a reduction in complaints and better satisfaction and more trust in the profession.
Fantastic. We can watch this space. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you.